And we have with us the Chief Creative Officer of RGA EMEA, a multi-award-winning talent with Cannes Lions, one-show pencils, and other recognitions on his name. And he's behind some of the most amazing and memorable campaigns that we know, whether it's Samsung's Fortnite Galaxy skin or Volkswagen's Nightmare Parks. These are just a few examples. He believes that creativity isn't about getting attention anymore, but it's about building intimacy through systems that learn and respond. So please give a really warm and loud welcome to Nicholas James Pringle. Welcome! Great to have you.
Hello, everybody. Just to say, I really enjoyed that last conversation talking about how brands need to be frictionless, how they need to appear everywhere, and I want to continue a bit of that narrative as I talk today and talk about rewiring creativity. At RGA, we're a product, brand, marketing, innovation company. We're rewiring ourselves right now. We became independent at the start of this year, and we're thinking again about how we do everything, how we serve our clients, really thinking about our processes and the work that we create, whilst at the same time it feels like the entire industry is rewiring itself with the advent of AI and these new technologies. And I talk about my industry, which is in brand and marketing and product, and of course the wider industry. And here at GITEX, it's impossible to ignore the changes that are happening. So I want to spend the next 20 minutes talking about creativity, talk about the changes that are happening. I want to assert that perhaps the biggest existential threat to creativity is not in fact AI, it's how creatives look at AI and consider those tools and think how they can use them. It's the danger of keeping a distance and not embracing these new technologies that we have in our hands now. So, quickly, RGA, so we've been around for 40-something years. We've been involved in what I think are all the major tech shifts that have happened. If we think about the web, we were helping companies like IBM reimagine their presence online. In Web 2, when mobile came around, we worked with Nike to try and understand how their digital ecosystem would exist in an app-like world. In the advent of social, Samsung, Beats, these companies, we took them onto social for the first time and help them understand how they would talk to customers and audiences in a new way. And here we are at the advent of AI, and once again we're working with companies like Google, like G42, to try and partner with them to understand the potential of AI and its ability to talk to customers and consumers in an entirely new way and create new experiences. So I can't stand here and deny that the intelligent era has arrived. We're literally surrounded by it. There are remarkable numbers. I gave a talk similar to this before the summer, and I think this number in the middle was 400 million. So you can see the exponential rise in ChatGPT weekly users. We commissioned a bit of research at the start of this year, talking to people about how they work and exist and trust AI models and platforms. And a really interesting data point came out that almost half of consumers would trust the recommendations from an LLM model more than they would from their family. Imagine that. That explains why those birthday presents you get are really not things that you want. So it's a remarkable thing, this. What a huge, significant change. What a transfer of trust. Many of you will recognize this. This is Perplexity. This is someone researching a running sneaker, a trainer that they want to buy. And they're getting unbiased information, or they believe to be unbiased information, perhaps unlike a traditional sponsored search. Getting the information they want, but critically able then to buy inside Perplexity. So imagine that. We're compressing the funnel. They're buying in Perplexity. And some of you will be aware this week that OpenAI and Shopify did a deal where all of those merchants will be able to be purchased directly through ChatGPT. So it's a significant change in the way consumers are interfacing with the internet. At the same time, let's think about autonomous buying. Perhaps it seems in the future, but OpenAI are testing it right now in America. the ability for you to ask an agent to go out and buy the things you want for you without you ever having to go to the internet and go through that traditional experience. So these are really, really big changes, and they're rewiring consumer expectations of how the internet works for them. They're seeking brands that become omnipresent, that are personal, that are predictive, that exist in real time, and they're made just for them. It's a lot. If you're a brand owner, you're a brand builder, it's a lot to contend with. There's a big, big change going on. And of course, if you're a creative person, you're in the world of brand building, then as the world changes, then the way we do our job must change too, and the type of work we create needs to change at the same way. And I'll share some of that work and some thinking around it as we go on. When I look at this map of logos, you'll recognize many of them. To me, they are new creative tools. Some people see them as productivity tools. I see them as creative tools. There are 7 or 8 on here. There are thousands of these. It's a rich playground of tools for the creative to try and understand and unlock the potential of. A lot of the dialogue has been around AI and efficiency, but that's really what it's about. It's about efficiency. I think that's highly, highly limiting from a creative point of view. There's so much more than just efficiency here. This, to me, is about rich, remarkable, exciting possibilities as a creative. How can we use these tools? How can we string things together? How can we have new conversations that we couldn't possibly have before? There are immense possibilities that we need to open our minds to as creatives working in this space. So here we are. It's without doubt a creative transformation, maybe the biggest creative transformation since the web. And remember, when the web started, no one really had any idea of where it would go and what would be possible. And it's the same here today. We're right at the start of discovering the potential of this space. It truly is a creative transformation. But within that, what's so important and why I believe in the role of creativity is it really is about tools and taste. Tools and taste. You need your honed sensibilities, what you like, your preferences, your knowledge, your skill, and your understanding what makes something great, and you need to apply that to the tools. There is something of a belief that you could just press a button and get great things out from AI. We had 60 people in New York just last week, all going through a program of trying to create brands pretty much in 24 hours in a really restricted time. And we had creative people, we had account people, we had strategists, and we had producers. And it becomes very, very clear that taste really matters based on what came out from that session. The creatives obviously have honed taste over years, managing to use the tools to create some things that are really, really beautiful. Taste becomes so important, which is why I feel strongly that we're in a very secure place as creative people as we start to work with these tools, and we shouldn't fear them. The other part that is massive is tangential thinking. It's tools and taste, it's tools and tangents. AI is the most extraordinary pattern recognition device, program model ever made. What it can't do is tangential thinking. The human brain is the most remarkable machine at tangential thinking, about making not incremental steps, but huge leaps. And so we have to keep that thinking and use it and bring our tangents and our thoughts and our left field thinking and apply them to the tools to get to really interesting places. Tools and tangents are so important. This is a quote from Aaron Toffler, the futurist. I'll just read it out because I love the sense of it. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's where we are right now. Your ability to unlearn and relearn is so important. And if you're in the creative industry, over the last 30 years, you've got used to models and ways of thinking and best practices, and now we're having to unlearn those and relearn new ones. And again, the biggest existential threat to creativity is those who keep these programs, these technologies, these models at arm's length and don't embrace them and relearn. Relearning is really tough. If any of you have started working with some of these models and these tools, you'll recognize this journey of huge excitement, the sort of spinning wheel of doom where you have no idea what you're doing because it's so different to anything you've done before. A brief moment of, I've got this, I can do it. Suddenly realizing that you really don't, and eventually you get to mastery. But it's a journey and it's a process to go on, and it's hard. But there are great rewards at the other end if you invest the time in the learning. So as a result of all this thinking, what we're making as a company is changing from what we made even 6 months ago to 12 months ago to certainly 5 years ago. It's fundamentally different. We think now about brands that are intelligent by design, that they are personal, they're predictive, they shape-shift, they allow for new relationships, they allow for co-collaboration, in fact, within a brand, which is different from where we've been. We've been restricted to some extent on that. Experiences that are truly adaptive by nature. What do I mean by adaptive by nature? That they're multimodal, they can shape-shift, and they have mood, they can understand mood, and they have memory. These are very different principles to how we've built experiences in the past. And then stories now increasingly, we can have infinite narratives, highly creative, infinite narratives that feel personalized and much richer than ever been before. So we're doing the same things, but we're having this new level of intelligence. And we like to think of these as intelligent brand systems. In fact, what we're doing now for clients is designing intelligent brand systems that help them get ahead, that help them grow their business, retain, and move forwards into this new world. So we call them intelligent brand systems, and I'll show you some examples of those. So Forever and a Day, it was about a campaign. Give us another campaign. What's our campaign? We're now thinking more about delivering story engines. These are models that allow for constant personalized stories, create a very, very different relationship. I'll play you an example here for Tadar. They're a drinks delivery brand, an AB InBev brand. They're down in South America. They had an issue with abandoned carts, very common problem in e-commerce. And how do you get someone who's put a few drinks into their cart, they've gone away, to come back and want to check out again? And here's an example of how a story engine works.
Abandoned Nights by Tata Delivery is a technical first, uniquely combining storytelling, design, and advanced AI to generate deeply personalized user experiences. We combined 3 AI technologies: language generation, image generation, and speech generation into one AI agent to create predictions. We developed a hybrid system, an intelligent storytelling machine, part creative studio, part AI agent. It constructs custom narratives based on user data, card items, and behavior, guiding each experience toward engagement and conversion.
Pablo, what have you done, my friend? You left bags, Coronas, and Budweisers in your cart. If only you had checked them out. Oh, the night you could have had. I know.
So, 50,000 videos created in the space of a handful of days, each of them personalized, each of them highly creative. Traditional storytelling with space for AI storytelling. We didn't actually know what was going to be in all the videos, which is kind of a remarkable thing. We set the machine, we create the model, and then we let it run. And that now becomes a product that we're talking to lots of our other clients around utilizing. So from a campaign to a story engine. Here, Google's one of our biggest clients. This is some work for Google Cloud. They had a partnership with Major League Baseball in America. Have all this remarkable data in the game about ball velocity, angle, weather, temperature, speed. They wanted to see how we could use that data and start creating new stories. So once again, we went into building a story engine, a creative model that had part copywriting data that could then work in real time and deliver these infinite stories that then would exist in the stadium. So, we couldn't have done this before, but here we can tell someone who's in seat 3, row 4, section 148, that it's highly likely that the ball is going to land in their area. So it's fun, it's interesting, it's highly engaging, it's a new way of telling a story. As I said, Google's a client of ours, Moncler is another big client of ours, and they wanted to work out how we could start to use generative video to create brand-level marketing and advertising for them using the VO2 product. This was back in summer. So once again, we went into working out what is the system and the machine that sits behind the content. We had to build a node-based system. For those of you who are deep into this space, it's rather like what Weavy has now become, but it allowed us to collaborate across time zones in order to deliver this film in just 4 weeks. This film would have been to make $1.5 million, taken about 3 months. We did it in 4 weeks for about $50,000 worth of prompts. I'll give you a taste of it here. If you go online, you can watch the rest of that and find out how it resolves. 100% AI generated, all of that generated in 4 weeks. We lost about half a day trying to get the character to unzip a tent. Apparently the model couldn't do that, gave us great problems. But it's exciting to see what's possible from that point of view in terms of delivering brand level work. Brand guidelines that forever have been PDFs that sit on a shelf that no one uses and we hope can kind of scale around the globe, but they never do, are becoming these adaptive brands. These brands that are multimodal and able to shape-shift in very different ways. A great example of that is some of the work we've done for Android, which, as you'll know, is the OS for Google. This brand started out as a green color and a flat droid, and now has become this extraordinary shape-shifting brand that lives in all touch points, and has this wonderful addition of AI which allows everyone to own a piece of the brand. And this is what I mean about co-creation. You can go out right now, tens of thousands of people have, and made your own unique droid. Now you own a piece of the brand. This is very, very different to where we've been before. I'm going to skip these two for time and talk about websites changing into generative interfaces. It's probably one of the most significant changes that's happening in web design over the last 10 years or so. You know, these generative interfaces are fundamentally changing the way that we experience. As I said, they're multimodal, they have the ability to understand mood, and they have memory. We're very lucky to partner with G42 to create their new website, and I'll give you a taste of that just here.
Hello. This is not a website. It is a generative interface. I listen, I adapt. Need it technical? I'll geek out. Want a story? I'll give you the beats. Just want the gist? No problem. I'll sharpen a summary.
What does this mean?
Good question. Want me to turn this into a podcast?
Sure. Numerical weather prediction is a way of forecasting the weather using math and computer models.
This is a new generation of generative interface. Content is generated from knowledge and adapted to each visitor in real time. Not a website, G42.ai is a living dialogue.
So no drop-downs, menus, navigation bars, entirely voice-driven, a completely different type of UX and UI. We're thinking more about these principles of character, memory, intelligence. You know, everything we learn about UX and UI is fundamentally changing to give these much more personal experiences, these websites that are made for you and serve you for what you need. So, you know, some examples of how creativity is fundamentally rewiring and changing what we do is very, very different to what we did in the past. Forever and a day, we used to make things. That's what we did. We would make things. We're sort of in a world now where we make things that make things. It's a new kind of creativity, and you can only get there by accepting and embracing the tools. And I really can't wait to see what this industry and beyond does with this if we step forward and embrace AI and the potential of it as a huge creative tool. Thank you very much.